What's up YouTube, Trip Church here once again. Today I'm going to be doing a quick video on some writer adjacent habits. So essentially these are going to be some of the most valuable bang for your buck type of habits that will provide some sort of benefit to your writing in addition to being fun on their own. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So an important thing I was thinking about when I was kind of outlining this video is just the idea of how important is writing to you? Because that's going to play a really big role in how you're picking what hobbies you're doing. If writing is just your for fun hobby, the stress relief from work, then maybe you don't really need to worry about picking up other hobbies. Maybe the writing is the fun hobby. But if you're like me and you're maybe looking to make writing into a career at some point, then we got to make sure that the time we're not spending writing is still going to be at least a little bit valuable for the writing. Ideally, in a perfect world, we're just writing all the time and that's perfect, but we're humans and we get tired of doing that and we want to do other stuff. So the idea is that let's pick some other activities that are going to give us some passive kind of benefits into our writing. And I think if you're a great writer, you can find a way to learn something from almost anything, but hopefully this will be a good list to get your brain thinking and flowing and get you moving along into some of these ideas, especially if you were looking for a new hobby to pick up anyways. So that being said, let's jump right into the first hobby, and this is going to be consuming other forms of art and story. So as writers, we're obviously storytellers and communicators more than anything else. If we don't have any ideas to communicate, it's kind of like, what's the point? So the cliche quote goes, every great artist steals, and I can't help but agree with that. Every story is kind of an amalgamation of 1,000 other stories we've seen, and we're just slotting all the different puzzle pieces that every story has. We're slotting them slightly differently and putting our own unique twist on it, but it's some of the same core ideas we see time and time again, and it's seeing other people's unique twists on those core ideas that often get us to have those light bulb, like, oh, they did that, but what if I did this? And those moments of inspiration are so invaluable as a writer. You can get so much. Some of your best ideas will come like those, and you got to be able to harness those. And since those are our best ideas, it's let's encourage those ideas to happen as often as possible. So I think every writer should be reading no matter what. That should go without saying. But TV shows, movies, video games, those are all just as valuable. You just can't only do one of them. You need a good variety. Variety is the spice of life, and that'll come up again later. And we got to consume a little bit if we want to be able to produce, And it's worth mentioning that, I said reading and, listening to an audiobook or, watching a TV show or movie, those aren't the only forms of story that we can actually, enjoy and consume. If you're going out to a great meal somewhere, the actual course of, the first appetizer, and then the salad, and then the entree, maybe that's its own story, and you could find that even in things like eating or watching a dance or a performance. There's story all around us, and as writers, we're really story collectors, idea collectors. We're just constantly trying to soak in as much as we can. So you can't neglect that you do need to be soaking things in if you want to be able to produce more new things. I will say we have to be careful here, make sure we're not overdoing this consumption to the detriment of our producing our own art. So we just have to be careful that we're not consuming so much other art to the detriment of our own production. Yes, we need to fill up the well, but if we're spending so much time filling the well that we're not actually using any of the figurative water within the well, it's what's the point, So make sure we're getting lots of new stuff into the system, but we need to be dedicating time to output stuff and not just input, if that makes sense. All right, so my next one, I'm sure this will be on every other list that's like this, but it almost goes without saying, but we need some form of sports or exercise in our lives. I think this is just mandatory to be a healthy human, but even as writers, you're going to be potentially spending hours sitting at your desk. It's really beneficial to have some sort of movement-based activity. That we need that contrast. If we're going to be sitting like this for hours, then it's good to be up and moving and going about. I'd say if nothing else, go to the gym and lift some weights. You really can't go wrong doing that, as long as you're doing it with good form and you're not, going ridiculous. Beyond that, I would definitely recommend looking into some sports, or swimming, all kinds of things. And I'm gonna, as a fantasy author, I'm gonna put a special advocacy for some sort of combat sport. So in my case, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've got a blue belt in it, and It's given me such an insight into how to write fight scenes that are going to be realistic. Obviously, a martial art's never going to be exactly the same as a real street fight. We're stimulating violence, not actually doing violence. But getting that simulated perspective is still so valuable. Understanding what it's like to have, adrenaline coursing through you while some guy is trying to like pin you to the ground and you're trying to get out. Like, that's an experience that I think is really valuable as a writer to be able to have lived in and be able to recapture into my own writing. So, any form of combat sport, I'm sure would have tons of return dividends, however the phrase goes. Even at the like smallest degree of this, like going for a walk before you sit down to write can really help clear your mind. Something about that motion, locomoting, is just, it's so fundamental to, what we do as humans. Like we're these organic machines that are built to move and explore. Evolutionarily, we were literally built to like chase down things and just run. So it's really good for us to get our exercise in. Like our body's hardwired to feel good when we exercise, and if we feel good, we're probably going to want to write, so you should be exercising. Number 3, we've got exploring and finding new things. So I think this is really important. I don't know if I've talked about it in other videos, but a big part of my philosophy with writing is, being consistent and building a writing routine and doing it every day. And as powerful as routines are for getting big projects done over a large course of time, they often can lead to a little bit of a sense of, I don't want to say dullness, but almost complacency. Like you can get very stuck in your routine, and sometimes variety, like I said earlier, variety is the spice of life. Sometimes we need to go experience new things, do something exciting and different just to get a little bit of excitement back. And oftentimes it's that's that novelty of new things, that newness, whether it's traveling or hiking and going seeing outside or trying a new food. Something I've noticed with these writing habits is like a lot of the times when you're being a responsible, disciplined human, like the writing just kind of follows right along with it, So for me, it's all about building this forward positive momentum about like doing more and doing better and having a lot of fun, and the writing will really follow suit a lot of the times. All right, so my last tip is going to be finding another artistic outlet. Like I'm really big into music. I've played drums for 10 something years, and I've recently picked up guitar, and I've been having so much fun with guitar lately. It's been so fun to learn a new instrument. It doesn't have to be an instrument. It could be painting, it could be dancing, it could be acting, it could be filming, it could be photography. It's literally endless. Anything that's considered art. I think it's very valuable to have these other outlets that aren't just writing. Sometimes the writing's just not working, and that's okay. Sometimes we go through these dry spells. It's good to have some other forms of art that we can explore in the meantime. Like I've been having a ton of fun with the guitar lately, and the writing hasn't been as much fun, but I'm okay with the writing being a little less fun right now because I'm having so much fun with the guitar. It's like, I can put up with a little bit of just getting this writing done for today, and that's fine. And it's just so valuable to have these other outlets of artistic expression. Like I've done some painting. I've got a bunch of paintings right here. Most of them are mine, and they're not great, but I'm still happy about them, and they were, pleasing to do at the time. I'd say along these lines, an important little distinction within the types of art that we make. Art's either usually improvisational or compositional. So improvisational art's going to be things that happen in the moment, and then there's compositional. These are much more like we're taking an idea and we're slowly molding it and shaping it. I think of this almost like a sculptor carving away the rocks until they have this beautiful, pristine statue underneath. It's the same sort of idea where it's not so much about the actual act of the creation, it's about the end result after hours of carefully, meticulously perfecting as close as we can get to perfect, the creation. And all art's going to have a degree of improvisation and a degree of composition. For writing specifically, there's a little bit of improvisation, especially when you're writing that first draft, but there is a lot more compositional elements in terms of editing your manuscript, That's why I think it's really good to have some sort of improvisational artistic expression to counterbalance that. Basically, if you're spending all your time editing, you're going to want to be able to go play guitar and mess around and noodle some chords, especially if you have a friend over and you guys can create some music together. It's always more fun when you've got another person involved. It's good to have a balance of both. So that's about all for today's video. I hope it was useful, and I hope it gave you some good ideas for new hobbies if you're looking for any, or just maybe some new perspective on some of the hobbies you already have. And if you guys are interested in beta reading my new book, it's called The Flame Between Us. It's not officially released yet, but I'm looking for some beta readers, so you can check this video up here or the first link in the description. It'll be there somewhere. It'll take you to a video about the book and what you can do to get involved in beta reading. But that's all. So thank you. Bye.